It was around when I was 13 or 14, and you kind of find yourself trying to pick and choose your friends. And also at the same time, you know, you're not really worried about what you want to accomplish at that time, but what people you want to hang out with.
I wanted to fit in.
Wasn't a popular kid in school, and it made me forget about all that.
You know, like, oh yeah, everybody else is doing it, so I'm gonna do it.
Friends were doing it.
I just wanted to jump right in and have fun. I did drugs because it seemed like it was fun.
It was the cool thing to do.
The cool thing to do was to get high, go to parties.
Growing up, you know, you struggling.
Couldn't deal with life.
So I didn't have to deal with life.
I wouldn't listen to anyone.
I was stubborn.
Like as a rebellious thing.
This is what the rebel kids were doing.
I just wanted to see what it was like.
I started experimenting with it.
Experimenting with friends.
First tried it because I was bored.
I was always up to try something new.
You know, when I was growing up, we had this program, it was just say no, just say no.
People are just saying no, but they're not saying why.
It's like telling a person no and then they go do it.
Sparked my interest on drugs.
I knew that they were bad, and I always heard about this addiction, but I didn't know what it meant.
That's probably the #1 reason why I did drugs in the first place. I just didn't know.
Drugs are everywhere. They're in magazines, movies, TV shows, you know, billboards. They're all over the place. You know, in the movies they make it look cool, but in real life it's not cool. It's a serious problem.
And a lot of times they try to glamorize drugs. Like make drug dealers or getting high look cool. But that's only in the movies. In real life, it's a whole different story.
All drugs, whether we're talking about alcohol, marijuana, LSD, these are all essentially poisons.
It would depend on the amount that you take. I mean, a lesser amount might just speed you up, make you feel really active. Stronger amount or a stronger dosage would act as a sedative, make you slow, sluggish, tired. And even more amounts, it would kill you. You'd have an overdose.
Every drug works in these stages. It's only really the amount needed to make the effect that's the difference from drug to drug.
A person who's taking drugs, whether for physical pain or just to try and block off any sensations they don't want to feel, those sensations are actually just being pushed away and getting worse and worse.
You're going to be totally numb and just not be able to feel anything.
When you take drugs, the drug goes through your bloodstream, and later on in your life, that drug can, you know, come back up and into a flashback when you use the drug.
You could have taken LSD one day and like a year down the road, it could come back into effect and you can start hallucinating again.
And it's not just LSD, it's every drug. So you can get hit with the effects of a drug even a long time after you stop taking them.
Drugs definitely affect the mind. Everything you see around you is different than what's really going on. You can't hear correctly, see correctly. All of your senses are totally thrown off. Your perception is definitely distorted. It makes it dangerous for you and others because you don't know what's going on. You can't handle things, you know, the way they're supposed to be handled.
Drugs affect your memory so much. It doesn't matter if you're taking them for a long time or just a short period of time.
I know, like, when I first just tried studying and stuff more, like, I really couldn't concentrate, I couldn't pay attention.
I went from like a straight A student to like, you know, a B- student, C student. Then I quit going to school and I would get really frustrated.
It's like your brain won't function. You can't think straight. Like everything is messed up.
I never got anything done. I would start on something and I wouldn't finish it. It just didn't happen.
It was just unbearable. I couldn't deal with life at all. I couldn't get a job because I was like just out of it completely.
My decisions were based off of, you know, what this drug is telling me to do rather than, you know, what I want to do.
I got them from friends in school.
2 friends.
A friend of mine.
My older brother's friends.
Bunch of girlfriends.
Boyfriend.
Ex-boyfriend. Older guy. My dad.
My cousin.
My brother.
My older sister.
Older kids.
My buddy just said, you know, you can do it every once in a while, it'll be no problem.
Told us it was going to be the best thing we've ever done.
You can do it once, you'll be fine.
It's not gonna hurt you, really. It's just a little pick-me-up. You can't get addicted to it.
They said it's not something that you're going to be taking every day. It's just something that you can take when you want to have fun.
Oh, this is gonna be a fun time.
It's a fun drug to be on. Makes you easier to talk to girls. And they said it'll bring you up. It's gonna make you feel different. You're gonna like it, you're gonna feel good.
It's all in your face that's the thing to do.
All it is taking a drug dealer's word for it.
When you're trying to get someone hooked, you'll say whatever you can to get a customer. You're lying,
for them to believe you so you can make money.
I would tell people it's fun, makes you energetic, makes you more likable. It's something, you know, people want to be around. I tell them whatever they wanted to hear in order to pick that first one up.
You know, when I was 12 years old, I didn't say, hey, I want to be 24 in rehab. I never said that to myself. You know, but that's what became true, you know, and I never thought about it when I was 13 years old. I started smoking pot.
I was that kid that started out with marijuana and played around with certain party drugs, whatnot, and I told myself specifically that I would never do certain things, cocaine, heroin, and it only took a short time for me to finally accept it and be like, okay, I'll try that.
I had no idea where it would lead me, to almost dying, to stealing, lying, cheating, ruining relationships. It didn't matter.
I didn't get into sports. I didn't get into the clubs. I didn't even go to prom.
Left me with living on the streets without a family, you know, and is that what I set out to be? No, you know what I mean? I was just set out to have a good time at college parties.
The drugs robbed me of all the pleasure of life. The drugs took away my family. The drugs took away my girlfriend, my friends.
I looked back on 5-6 years of my life and saw that all I had done is absolutely just ruined incredible opportunities that I had to have success and hurt all the people around me.
It's not just something that's going to affect tomorrow, it's going to affect forever.
You don't have to find out everything for yourself. You don't have to find out what a car accident experience is like.
Do yourself a favor. Don't fall into the same footsteps as so many other people have.
And realize that you could be the guy living under the bridge shooting heroin.
You might think you won't get like that. None of us ever did, and we wound up in those same shoes.
What I would tell people is just, I would give them my story.
I would tell them my exact story. I would tell them my story.
A story like mine.
The insanity of my story.
Ultimately, it comes down to their own decision making.
You have to get the facts.
Check the statistics.
Find out for yourself.
Find out for yourself.
Find out the actual truth of what these are and what they're going to do to your life.
I would just say to anybody, you know, if you're going to do something, you know, if you're really going to do something, go educate yourself on it beforehand. I think there's a lot of truth in that.
Ganja,
pot, grass,
kush,
dope, hash, swag,
weed,
sticky,
marijuana. I ended up being addicted to heroin, coke, meth. I've done it all, and it all started with pot.
Marijuana is the dried parts of the Indian hemp plant.
Hash is the sticky crystalline that comes off when they pick it.
A lot of it's like from Mexico, shipped over borders, and a lot of people manufacture their own and sell it. Hydroponics is like a system of growing weed.
There's a lot of science, there's a lot of chemistry that go into wanting to make it stronger. And comparing it to what was available in the 60s and 70s, there is a huge difference in potency. It's so much more stronger. It's so much more intense. And so much more damaging to the body.
The main mind-altering drug ingredient in marijuana is THC.
THC is what gets you high.
This drug is a hallucinogen, distorts your reality. It can be green, brown, or gray.
It's compressed most of the time, like into brick forms that are, you know, real compressed. And they bag it into pounds and ounces, quarter ounces.
So weed is either smoked or baked.
You can smoke it from a bong, a pipe, you can roll it up as a joint. Some people, they'll dissolve the marijuana in butter and they'll make pot brownies, pot cookies, whatever food they want to ingest it with.
I was wrestling, I was in football, went to school, got A's. You know, I was a good kid.
I had this dream. I was going to make sure that I had an education. I was a B student. And then I went from that to a C, D.
I pushed aside my studies, I pushed aside any sports to do the drug.
I didn't want to go to school. I missed school all the time. I didn't graduate because of it.
Everything kind of slipped away. I lost the glimpse of hope I had.
I was probably 13, 14, something like that.
I started smoking weed when I was 14, I think.
17, can't forget that day.
I saw pot everywhere when I first started doing it. It
made it okay for me.
I was with a friend. She's like, it's an herb, it's grown, it's safe, it's natural, and there's no problem with it.
I knew other people did it. It seemed harmless at the time to me.
Take a puff and pass to your buddy sitting next to you. No one ever did, passed it up. Everyone always took a hit.
It started off as something very casual and fun, and then within a few weeks it was something that became an everyday habit.
And then it just turned into sort of like escapism, just to get away from everything.
I smoked weed so I didn't have to deal with life. It was kind of taking place of life. There's a common misconception that weed is not addictive.
I never thought I was addicted to marijuana. I thought it was just something that was part of my lifestyle. I thought it helped me relax.
I'd become so accustomed to being stoned every night. When I wasn't doing it, it was out of the norm.
Once you smoke it, you really don't feel like you can do anything without it. You just feel so high. You just want to be high for everything you do.
And there was nothing that I wanted to do with my day other than smoke weed. It was so weird. That was my driven purpose.
I always had this idea in my mind that I can live life and smoke weed at the same time, but I never could.
I'd want to get high every day. I'd want to get high when I woke up in the mornings.
My mind was so set on having it that it preoccupied so much of my thinking that became all that I did. That was all I thought about.
If I ran out of weed, I'd be pretty mad.
Irritable and annoyed with everything.
I was tired. I was nervous, I was anxious.
I couldn't sleep without it, I'd be up for days when I tried to stop.
It's an emotional roller coaster. It's very hard on you.
I'd feel depressed by not having done anything better with my life, but I would still use the drug to hide from the problem.
I was actually prom king. The drug dogs came to school, and I'd had some joint roaches in the ashtray of my truck. And they found him. I got kicked out of school for it.
I dropped out of school, I had no job, I had no money to pay rent.
It unconsciously separated me from my family, and I was always concerned with when I was gonna go out and party, and it just, the priority list of friends or family just slipped underneath.
I stopped trying, and when that started, it just led to a different lifestyle.
If I needed to get a job interview that included a drug test, I wouldn't take that job because I couldn't stop using it.
I had a BMW, and I loved that car. I loved it. I was so high, and I just floored it, just went all out in it, and I took a curve and I lost it. Flipped the car over, and my first reaction, I had a quarter pound of weed in there, and my first reaction was grab the bag full of my weed.
One of my friends was smoking pot, him and a buddy. He was going 80, went off the road and hit a tree, killed my other buddy.
I wound up in prison. I served 3 years, 11 months, and 19 days.
I've been locked up since I started smoking about 12 or 14 times.
Went to jail and been facing charges ever since. Got a felony on my record.
It ruins your chances to get a good job. It ruins your chances to get anywhere. Once you have a record, that's it. So it's not fun at all.
People say marijuana is a gateway drug. You can argue that all you want, if it is or it isn't. The fact of the matter is, when you smoke pot, the people that you hang out with are going to have other drugs around you. Eventually, you're going to run into it.
As much as I hate the word gateway drug, I'm the prime example of it, and I know lots of other people who followed the same path.
I basically realized that my gateway to those drugs was the fact that I couldn't stop smoking weed on a daily basis, because eventually you build a tolerance and then you stop getting high. So you still crave a high. So you go out and look for other drugs.
Which of course were even harder drugs.
So that's how I tried coke, and I'll go over to another friend's house and people would show up with mushrooms. Hey, you want to buy mushrooms?
After that, I started doing cocaine and Oxycontin.
Do some heroin.
Introduced to coke, Xanax, ecstasy, all that stuff. I wouldn't have touched any of that stuff because I wouldn't even know what being high was. So once you get high, it just changes everything.
Maybe nothing horrible is gonna happen to you those first 10 times you do it, but before you know it, it's gonna be a huge component of your life.
Personally, I wish I would have just avoided it. I know people who've grown up and never smoked weed and are perfectly fine. They're socially accepted. They have great lives.
It's all a big hype, you know what I mean? They just tell you that, oh yeah, you know, you just get high or whatever, everything will go away. That's BS. The problems that you had before you got high are still gonna be there when you're done being high.
You're gonna ruin relationships. You're gonna get yourself in trouble with the law. You're gonna screw your finances up. You're gonna screw your future up.
Took away, you know, my chances of wrestling in college or playing football in college, going to college for academics because I was capable, and that is all gone. So now I can't vote, can't do anything as a normal citizen.
I would have been in college right now, about to graduate, probably going for something decent, a good degree, get a job, get my life together, not going through what I'm going through right now.
It wasn't something that was harmless. Smoking pot ended up taking my life away and leading me onto another life that I never wanted.
Vodka,
Tequila,
scotch,
beer,
wine,
rum,
gin,
whiskey,
alcohol.
Alcohol probably took 20 years of my life, and you can't get that back.
Alcohol is a drug, which most people don't think it is, but it actually is. It's classed as a depressant, meaning it slows down vital functions in the body.
Alcohol is made through the fermentation of fruits and grains.
The process of fermentation is basically letting fruit sit and rot until it can produce a mind-altering effect when you drink it.
There's different types of things you can drink that have different amounts of alcohol in them. Like a beer, if you just drink beer, that has 2 to 6% alcohol. Wine is about 8 to 20% alcohol. And then you got your hard liquors, which are like vodka or whiskey, which are about 40 to 50% alcohol.
When someone drinks 2 or more drinks, it acts as a stimulant. When they drink more than that, it acts as a depressant.
If you binge drink, what you're doing is you're just drinking repeatedly over and over large amounts and large quantities of alcohol. If you put that much alcohol in your system at one time, you can get alcohol poisoning, which could lead you to go into a coma or even kill you.
12 years old, I was in the 7th grade.
When I was in 8th grade, I think I was 13 years old.
It became very regular at 14 years of age.
15 years old when I first started drinking.
17 years old, starting going out to parties, doing things like that.
At first, drinking was a sociable thing, you know, I drank with my friends.
Thought I was really cool going out with all the older guys, and I'd try to show off in front of them and drink myself stupid. I just go out and party all night.
By the time I was probably 15 is where I started drinking at school. Putting it in a water bottle, I would take vodka or gin, something clear that looked like water, and I would just drink in class and pop mints in my mouth.
We'd go in, break into his parents' liquor cabinet, fill up our super big gulps full of ice and Everclear, and then stop by 7-Eleven and fill the rest of it up with Coke, and then make it to first period.
I was drinking not just at parties and stuff, but after classes and after work, and even at work.
I waited tables, so it was very easy access to alcohol.
It was just hard to say no. It was so readily available, and it was constantly there.
My drug problem wasn't something that happened immediately. It happened so slowly that I missed the fact that I was addicted to it.
It became a routine, a way of life.
The only type of people I would hang out with were people who were using drugs or drinking alcohol. And it got to the point where that's all I cared about.
It became far more than just a partying thing. It was a necessity.
Without having alcohol in me, I could not function.
I kind of became a loner because all I ever wanted to do was just drink and drink and drink.
It felt like it was my only friend. Felt like that it was always there for me somewhere. You know, when things were going bad, I could always have a few drinks. Well, for me, it was never a few drinks. It was always a lot of drinks.
I was consuming about 30 beers a day, a whole case of beer, and 3/4 of a gallon of light rum. I would essentially have that and black out every night.
I could do nothing but drink 24/7, drink, pass out, drink, pass out.
I literally started drinking so much that I would shake if I didn't have a drink.
When I would not drink, I'd get extremely sick, deathly sick.
Just really achy all over, and you have headaches, and you're so dehydrated that you have no energy.
Alcohol had been, in and out my body so much that it had tore away some of the lining of my esophagus and blood was creeping in.
I was a physical disaster. I was that far in my addiction of physical withdrawal that when I shut that alcohol intake off, my body tried to shut down.
The actual withdrawal from alcohol can kill you, for one thing, if it's too intense. Your body has no vitamins or is dehydrated, and you can have DTs, you can seizure to death. That's terrible.
I got a phone call, that my father was in the hospital and that he was really, really sick, and that he wasn't going to make it. So the next day I got on a plane to go home, and my only way to confront this was to drink alcohol. So I showed up at the airport pretty drunk, and my family, saw me there, and they didn't know what to say. The worst thing about it is that my father was kept conscious so that he could see me before he passed away. But instead of disgracing his memory, they'd put him on life support.
I had gotten kicked out of this bar for fighting. I was beyond drunk, and I was attacked and raped. And I went home, and I stayed in my apartment for a week. My mom would come knocking on the door. I'd pretend I wasn't home. I felt like it was my fault. I was the one that was at that bar. I was the one that was getting drunk.
I went home, and I had a roommate. And for some reason, we got into an argument, which resulted in a fight, and the cops got called. I blacked out for part of it, so I couldn't figure out why I was waking up in jail.
I drank some beer there at the bar inside the airport. I just ordered another beer and put my backpack on and started walking through the terminal smoking a cigarette. I didn't care what I was supposed to be doing. And I ended up getting a fight with the police there at the airport. And I woke up in jail. I had staples in my head.
In the military, I woke up and I actually had to crawl on my hands and knees off the flight deck of the carrier because I couldn't walk, and then I got discharged from that and lost a girlfriend and a kid and my whole life.
I drank to blackout one night. Well, sometime about an hour later, I got back up. I went to my bedroom. My wife wasn't there. I went to the girls' bedroom, and they were all in the bed together, basically hiding from me through a blackout. And I decided right then that I couldn't stay there anymore. I was afraid I was going to hurt someone in a blackout.
I haven't had a drink in 3 years, yet I'm reminded daily of my alcohol abuse because of the long-term effects. I have horrible short-term memory, and it makes everyday life very difficult for me. Just remembering names, remembering how to do things.
As a result of alcohol, I had high blood pressure, and I still have it.
Destroys your internal organs, and it can destroy your brain functions, your handwriting, small motor skills. It's definitely a poison.
I have liver pains, bone and muscle aches that just used to not be there, and it's not from age. I'm not that old. I should be in my prime right now, and I've probably aged myself 20 years through alcohol abuse.
Alcohol is slow to kill, but it's the most hideous form of death. If I had known how sneaky and dangerous and insidious alcohol is, if somebody had kind of told me, and if I had known that it's not this symbol for a good time, I think that would have made a difference.
It's not like some of the other drugs that instantly after your first time you're hooked and you're addicted to it. A lot of times, most of my friends didn't even like the taste of beer when they first started drinking.
It started out as something that was fun, something we did on weekends. How it progressed to an everyday, all-day thing is beyond me. I have no answer to that. I do not understand how that happened, but it did.
It's nothing but misery. The last 12, 13 years of my life, I've spent probably over $500,000, and over 4 or 5 years of that has been institutionalized, whether it be in a alcohol treatment rehab facility or, incarcerated.
Alcohol is just as bad, if not worse, than heroin or barbiturates or anything else. I don't know, if 60% of people go out to drink and get drunk, chances are that they're going to lead to something else and they're going to end up on the downward spiral.
I may not be very old, but I have definitely seen some hellish things from alcohol. To be honest, I didn't think someone could get to the point that I was at my age. I thought that took years and years, but no, downward spiral.
It might seem fun at the beginning, but after you get stuck in that lifestyle for years, you realize how not fun it is. terrifying.
Skittles,
pills,
X,
triple stacks, rolls,
smiley faces,
E-bombs,
MDMA,
Molly,
beans,
ecstasy.
It's not worth the momentary high. It just sucks the life out of you. It sucks the happiness out of you.
Ecstasy is a synthetic or man-made mind-altering drug. It can have other qualities like as a stimulant, a depressant, or hallucinogenic.
They're almost the size of like an Advil or something, and they have different pictures, and they're all different colors.
I mean, it's a designer drug. It's made with all different types of chemicals.
You never know what's in it.
The facts are is that it's not just in nightclubs or raves anymore. It's in our own homes. Kids are taking it, and teenagers are taking it. Adults are taking it for fun. They think it's a recreational drug, and it's not. It's much more serious than that.
Well, it started out as parties. It started out like, me and my boyfriend would go to a party.
90 to 100% of the people were on ecstasy when I was at parties.
I mean, there's so many different varieties of it out there, whether it's cut with methamphetamine like heroin, some's cut with more dope than others.
So when I took ecstasy, where I was hallucinating so heavily, it was because the batch had acid in it or LSD in it.
It was a speed-based ecstasy pill. And I was so wired up, I had foam coming out of the side of my mouth.
There's just so many things that play a factor in it. It's pretty unknown.
I've been to raves and seen countless people taken away in ambulances. Just, you never know what you're gonna get in that pill. It was the summer out of 8th grade.
I was about 16, the first time I took ecstasy.
I was 18, I just got out of high school and was moving into my first college apartment.
As a freshman in college, that would have been 19 years old.
I went to celebrate my 21st birthday with a bunch of friends, and I went to this club, and one of my friends pulled me aside in the bathroom and said, hey, I mean, you feel really good right now. I have something that'll make you feel even better.
They'd be like, okay, if you take this ecstasy right now, you're gonna feel so great. You're gonna feel like you're on top of the world. Just try it, come on.
And I was pretty worried. Was this really addictive? What would it do to you? And he just said, oh, no, it's like this really big thing. It's really, really big on the nightclub scene. And it's not that bad. It's not like you get addicted to it or anything.
It had a little dolphin stamp on it, and well, I thought, okay, this can't be bad. I mean, one small little pill, no big deal.
So me and a bunch of my girlfriends took it, and we were partying all night long, but then the next morning I didn't realize what it had done to me because I was so depressed. It just sucked like all the happiness out of me.
The next day I woke up and I just felt so bad. The first thing I thought was, you know what, like, I can't wait to take more X because I just don't want to feel like this. And, you know, for the next few days after I took it, I felt like crap.
The next time you take it, it's like you have to take 4 to 5 pills.
But when you come down, all you want is to go back up again because you just hit that depression.
And next thing you know, you're like taking 9 to 10 pills, not even getting close to that first time.
Just stuck in your head, what, I'm such a loser, I'm this, I'm that, you know what I mean? And I'll never do this drug again. And then half an hour to an hour later, you're doing it again because it's the only thing that makes you feel better.
And so it pretty much was like a revolving door, just like trying to get happy, then getting sad, then happy, then sad, and just kept getting worse and worse.
So you're almost scared to come down from it because you don't know what's going to happen when you come down. Because you're so depressed, you feel so bad, your body feels so terrible.
You can't sleep, you can't eat, you're like extremely hot and sweating.
I was being up and down every day. My emotions were so dysfunctional, they didn't make any sense to me. I didn't know what was going on with my body.
I felt like a different person. I felt, you know, I wasn't okay with myself. I felt like a different guy when I was on it. It just really warps the brain, and I think it changes a person's personality. And unfortunately, it's been heavily promoted that it's okay, it's a party drug, it's a love drug, and really it's a dangerous drug. Take it to a nightclub and you'll go and you'll dance and you're not worried about, you know, going and getting water or whether or not your heart's about to explode, it's pumping so fast.
The whole time I was high on ecstasy, I'd be clenching my jaw. You literally just want to like bite down and clench your teeth the whole time.
You can overdose, you can overheat your body, you can dehydrate your body and pass out.
It's just like this urge to go, go, go. I would dance until I couldn't, until I blacked out.
I actually have witnessed more than once somebody dying from the first time of taking ecstasy.
It made me somebody who I wasn't. I mean, I was fulfilling my addiction, whether it's through running prostitution rings, gambling rings, selling drugs to kids.
I drove on ecstasy a couple times. I had no idea what was really going on. I know I would see a stop sign or a stoplight and I'd be like, wow, that's really, really red. I didn't make the connection, well, it's a red light. I think I should stop my car now. Driving under the influence of ecstasy, I didn't make those connections at all.
We were probably 16 or 17, and I was the only one who was on ecstasy, and everybody else was drinking. So the police came and saw us, and everybody was acting drunk and silly, and they took me and put me into jail for the night and held me there. At the time, I thought it was hilarious because I didn't care about anything. I was on ecstasy, but then the next morning, I'm like, oh my God, I'm in jail right now.
I got caught with ecstasy on me, got thrown in jail in a really run-down area of South Carolina. And I was on ecstasy and I was extremely depressed in jail around these really big guys threatening to basically beat me up.
We went out to a club one night and I had taken, 2 or 3 rolls, and I got in the club and I started pouring the sweat. I ended up passing out and they had to throw me into a cold shower.
I was passed out, but the people who worked in the club would drag me out of the nightclub because they don't want you to die in their club. So they'll drag you out to the sidewalk and leave you there until the ambulance comes in and takes you away.
I blacked out for God knows how long and woke up in a tub of ice with my friends around me, the fear in their faces of not knowing if I was alive or not. And the craziest part about it is, in a situation like that, because drugs are involved, you don't know whether to call an ambulance or what to do because you have the fear of getting in trouble for it too. Basically, I could have died because they didn't know what to do.
Ecstasy, that's such a new and designer drug over the last decade or so. They really don't even still know the long-term effects of it themselves because it depends on what type you're using.
It causes brain damage, and when you have brain damage, that can cause effects on various things such as coordination, certain dexterities, communication.
I had, for a long time, jaw pain. I've had teeth problems for a long time after I took them.
Like when I see a doctor and stuff, they tell me my worst repercussions are down the road. You know what I mean, with the drug abuse I did.
They didn't tell me that I was going to become very addicted to this. I was going to become extremely depressed. I was going to develop a, $200 or $300 habit a week on this stuff. That I'd have to go to rehabs. That I was going to be arrested 3 times. That I was going to be thrown in jail 2 times. That I was going to have to total 3 cars. Nobody really ever told me about that stuff, the first time I took ecstasy.
It seems like it's a lot of fun, and you think that everybody else is doing it, or they look like they're having a great time, but in reality, it's evil. I mean, it'll take control of you and run your life for you.
If I knew what I knew now and I could go back, I never would have touched a drug. I mean, like I said, when I went into it, I didn't think it was going to do any damage. It seemed like a normal thing for me, to take ecstasy. That a lot of people took ecstasy and they ended up doing fine. But that's not the case.
Nothing bad may happen. Cool, that's fine. Take these next 3 weeks. How are you gonna feel? What about your job, your school, your body's health, your family's, emotions towards you? You take those 2 facts, there's no choice. It's like jumping out of a plane and just having a set of silverware as a parachute. It's not a decision.
It's true. It really is. Because even if you don't get hurt from the drug the first time you take it and you enjoy it, there's a downside to that too, because then you enjoy it, then you want to do it again. And once you do it again, it's the start of your own destruction.
Yay.
Diesel, white, rocket fuel,
Powder.
Nose candy, yo-yo, Snow White,
Coke.
Dust.
Cocaine.
You have no clue what demons and problems that you're about to encounter when you decide to do coke.
Cocaine is manufactured from the coca plant.
There's a certain process where they extract the actual cocaine properties from the plant and they refine it down into a powder.
Even though it's basically considered powder form, when you buy it, it's still kind of clumpy because it comes off a block.
Cocaines can be cut with glass, it can be cut with Drano, just to get the users to get that first burn in their nose, so the rest of the night they're numb, they don't feel what they're sniffing. People from very young ages to senior citizens use cocaine. It's not prejudice.
It's considered a rich man's drug, but even teens can afford it at lower and lower costs. So once a person is addicted, the price skyrockets because they need more and more, and it gets more expensive to have the habit.
There's a lot of different ways to do this drug. I just snorted it.
Mostly for me, I smoked and snorted it.
You can smoke it, you can shoot it.
It can be injected into the bloodstream through IV needles.
I was 14 when I first tried coke.
The first time I did cocaine was when I was 16 years old.
I was 18 years old.
Just going to like house parties and hanging out with friends.
I was with a bunch of friends. They were all doing ecstasy and coke and smoking pot, drinking.
I was at a high school party where there was some older guys there and they had cocaine.
And of course the older people, they're the cool people and they were going to the parties and they were doing the drugs.
I was in such a crowd of like intelligent people and people with lots of money. Cocaine came into the picture and it was just one big kind of a party drug.
You know, I'd do it once every month or so, and then as it progressed, I'd be doing it every other weekend.
Within an 8-month span, I went from trying it a few times to becoming a weekly user, to eventually a daily user, and then to becoming a dealer.
Once you start taking that stuff, like I said, you feel like a rock star. You feel invincible. You feel just nothing can touch you.
You can make conversations, you're happy, but that's only for about a half hour.
The night I first took it, I wanted more that entire night.
With coke, it's like instant.
Because it only lasts for 15, 20 minutes and then you gotta have another line.
And then I need some more because I'd start coming down.
So you're just constantly chasing this high that you'll never achieve.
I was leaving work every half an hour to go buy more.
I was working like 14, 16 hours a day. I started using more and more cocaine to keep working, to make more money.
You spend all your money on it, one way or another.
It was so expensive that I'd only do enough until I ran out and I couldn't afford to buy more. That's when I realized I had absolutely no control over myself, and the cocaine was pretty much controlling me.
You do more so you can feel normal, and you don't feel normal ever on the drug.
I couldn't complete anything I started. Couldn't have a conversation with anybody. I couldn't look anybody in the face.
Your body craves more and more, but when you're at that point, the more you take, the more dysfunctional you become.
It's like quicksand. Once it gets its grip, it just starts sucking you in. And the harder and harder you try to pull yourself out of it, the deeper and deeper you go.
I'd wake up in the morning, if I didn't have it, the first thing I'd think of was a 9mm in my head.
Thought I needed it to get up. I thought I needed it to go to sleep or anything like that.
The couple days after you do cocaine, your muscles ache, your sinuses are real bad, your nose starts bleeding.
My nose hurt so bad from doing it that I couldn't sleep without having lines set out for me, so that when I would wake up throughout the night, I could do some just to numb the pain.
I would go through extreme hot and cold flashes, very severe night sweats.
Like I can't sleep, feeling disgusting.
The chills, the shaking. I was doing so much cocaine that I was actually hallucinating.
And depending on the time, actually sit there and talk to myself because I was going crazy.
You know, seeing things, constant paranoia, constant depression, suicide attempts.
So it went from being a party drug to a drug that kept me holed up in a dark room by myself, scared of my own shadow. I was in the business, a family business with my father, paying the bills. I was an accounts payable for him. I basically advanced myself $30,000 within 3 months and almost put the business under.
I was making a lot of money at the time. Everything was on plastic and credit cards. Everything else was going to cocaine. Probably upwards of about $600,000-$700,000.
I started shooting it. I missed the vein and actually went into a nerve.
and it blew up my whole entire arm and hand. My arm just kept on inflating more and more. Thought I was gonna die.
I flatlined, and then they all came rushing in, and they took the paddles and hit my chest and everything. They brought me back again. After I'm out of the hospital, there I am, doing it again.
When I got to a party and a guy walked in, I didn't know the guy. I beat him, put him in the hospital. You know, beat him until he was unconscious. You know, just because I didn't know who he was. Yeah, I was paranoid.
There was a kid that had just gotten out of prison, and he knew I was hard up for money, and he wanted me to go rob these people. We all went in there in masks with guns. We taped them and tied them up and took everything they had.
A good friend of mine, I went through middle school, high school with him. He tried to rip somebody off at a high school party, and they shot him in the stomach with a .40 caliber, and he's dead now, 20 years old.
I can't feel that happiness that I remember feeling before I did drugs.
My memory is nowhere near what it used to be. I have a hard time remembering certain names, certain faces, certain places.
I actually had like numbness in my leg for a year because I was shot in my leg. My foot's still damaged from that.
Damage to my arms and my veins and stuff.
When I blow my nose, I still have blood and other tissues coming out.
And I actually gave myself an ulcer that ruptured.
Heart attacks, strokes, tears in your heart, nothing good.
You know, everybody always talks when they're young, oh, I'll try anything, I want to try something new, I do it, but it's just not worth it.
I wish I had never done it that first time. A social acceptance wasn't worth it. The girl wasn't worth it. The pain and agony to my family wasn't worth it.
If you think you control it, you can't. It can't be controlled. It will take a hold of you quicker than you ever thought possible.
I'm 34 years old now. I feel that my 20s were, completely unproductive and a waste.
I don't know anyone who has just done cocaine one time and had it not affect their life in a negative way.
It might seem fun right now, and you might be thinking you're having a good time, but there's no such thing as an old drug addict. You're gonna kill yourself.
You're choosing death over life, and that's the reality of the decision you're making.
Bass.
White.
Butter.
Rock.
Crank. Sleep.
Flavor.
Yellow.
Crack.
Blow.
Work.
Crack cocaine.
It will ruin your life. You will have nothing after you smoke crack.
Crack was basically like the refined form of cocaine.
When you have cocaine, obviously it's cut with a few things, and then what you do with crack is you heat it up and it burns off all that stuff, which means that you have the pure cocaine.
It's 80% to 100% more pure than cocaine.
Crack gets its name from the sound it makes when you smoke it. It's like a crackling and popping sound.
It comes in black or crystal form and ranges in colors from white to yellow to pale rose. You know, it's not translucent, you can't see through it. It looks like a rock. It's hard like a rock.
You can just snort it.
I snorted it.
Shot it up while I would smoke it.
Put it in the pipe and smoke it.
You can snort it, inject it, or smoke it.
I did it for my first time on my 13th birthday.
Around 17.
I was 21 when I first smoked crack cocaine. I'd say 23 to 24 years old. It was curiosity, my buddies were doing it.
My friends asked me to try some cocaine. We ran out that night and our drug dealer offered us crack instead.
Boyfriend told me this is gonna be fun. You can do it just once, it's not gonna be a big deal. And so I tried it.
I took them just to be cool, just to fit in.
And I smoked it, and within the first 20 minutes of starting to smoke it, I was scraping the pipe. I had run out, was looking on the floor to see if I had dropped any.
After about 10, 15 minutes afterwards, I really wanted it again.
Right when you take the first hit and you blow out, you're like instantly high.
And that's what you're reaching for every single time.
Thought that, if I kept smoking it, I would get it, and I never did.
That's what makes it addictive, is you never reach that same level of high that you did when you very first hit it. And you spend days and days and days chasing that same high.
Started spending all my money on it, started skipping work.
I would sit and smoke thousands of dollars, no problem.
The come down is the most horrible part of crack. I mean, you can't sleep, you can't think, you don't want anybody to be around you, you want to just curl up in a ball and cry.
You're nauseous and you're sick to your stomach.
Slow thinking, lethargic feeling, not wanting to do anything.
I didn't sleep for a long time. I started with like a little bit seeing stuff.
It makes you insane. You're gonna do anything that you possibly can to avoid that because it hurts.
Your heart feels like it's gonna pop out of your chest because it's going so fast, and you honestly feel like you might die.
I was living on the streets, sleeping in abandoned garages, eating out of garbage cans.
One time I went over to one of the guys' house. I went inside. The guy's like, "This is what it is." And I tried to argue prices with him, which wasn't at all intelligent. And he took all my money out of my pockets, and he told me I wasn't allowed to leave. I was tied down to the chair, and the guy was walking around the house with a gun. He was all pissed off because he thought that I was like a narc and that the cops were coming because of me. And all the time I'm just begging to him, you know, let me live. You know, I didn't do nothing. I don't know what you're talking about. I was only 14 or 15 years old when it happened.
I went from being a very successful business person, had my own apartment living in New York City, to I wake up one day, I'm 30 years old, I'm living with my parents again, and I'm actually stealing my mom's purse to get money for crack.
I went from being in this upper middle class family, wonderful home, to going from crack house to crack house.
It's where you go and do drugs, smoke crack nonstop.
Usually there's somebody at the door that asks you what you want.
You would have to either give him money or give him drugs for just letting you in the door.
You would walk into the crack house, it would be extremely dirty.
Dishes piled up all over the place. Like I said, cockroaches on the ground crawling all over.
You walk around the house, it doesn't matter if there's babies there, it doesn't matter if there's young children, you know, there's crack pipes all over, there's you know, the paraphernalia that goes along with using it.
People that have been there for 2-3 days just all strung out in the corner.
A guy came in to buy some crack and he had a bunch of money. They sold him some fake crack. So he came back in the house and pretty much like 7 guys just jumped him and took his money and beat him up pretty bad. You know, there's blood everywhere and, you know, they laugh about it because it's funny to them, you know. They got money and they got to keep their drugs.
I've seen females sell their children. I've seen mothers not even care about their children, just for some crack.
The girls, you know, they just sell their bodies for these drugs. I mean, $10, $20 at a time.
I went out and I found some guy, had sex with him, got money, went to the crack house, smoked crack all night. That's all I did was I met guys and had sex with them for crack. I didn't want to be called a crackhead, but that's what I became.
Nobody wants to talk to you because of what you're doing. You know, the ones that love you cry when they talk to you.
My mom couldn't sleep ever. You know, she lost her job. My dad had 2 heart attacks from stress, from, you know, trying to find me in the streets. So many things were affected with my family because of my drug use.
I lost who I was over the 6 years. It was like I turned into someone that I never thought I would be.
My focus isn't as sharp as it used to be.
You'll still have your mood swings. You'll still have anxiety.
I still can't breathe right. I mean, walking up a hill or walking up the steps, I can't breathe. It hurts.
Think you're gonna get this like great sensation and you only get it once. You're gonna be fighting to get it for the rest of your life. It's not glamorous at all. I mean, jail, prison, you're gonna get caught up eventually.
You're either gonna end up in jail, you're gonna end up dead, or you're gonna have to go to rehab.
If I didn't have drugs in my life, I'd achieved and accomplished so much more. It's a lot of pain, turmoil, trouble, heartache, and it's not worth it.
If I had somebody's story like mine, or if I had more education on crack cocaine, I would have never picked it up, ever.
If I would have known what it would have done to me physically, what it done to my family, what it did to my career, just all that stuff, I wouldn't have done it, you know. It was something that I tried and regretted.
It's a hard decision to make for yourself, but it's a decision that judges the rest of your life.
You know, somebody says, oh, let's try this at a party, we're just gonna have fun tonight. You know, it's a weekend thing. But it's not like that, you know? It's not just a weekend thing, and it starts off so simple and turns into a nightmare.
Huda,
ice, glass,
tweak,
crank,
Chizo,
shards, crystal,
the magic dragon.
meth.
If we're out in public, it's gonna be called Tina because it sounds like you're just talking about a girl. It doesn't sound like you're talking about one of the worst drugs in American history. Crystal meth is actually the more pure form of methamphetamine. Commonly, people think methamphetamine is just a powder, but really, these days, you have to go searching just to find it in powder form. Crystal meth is the most common what you're gonna find of the meths.
It looks like glass, like blades almost, but it's like glass pieces. Comes in different flavors sometimes. It comes in like different colors, kind of pinkish, brown color, like an off-white, and sometimes it's crystal clear.
And there is also another thing, it's called peanut butter crank. It actually looks like peanut butter, smells like peanut butter, and it's basically pure speed. It's more pure form of crystal meth.
It's made out of
Everything underneath the hood of your car and your kitchen sink.
Ammonia,
Driveway cleaner.
lye, gun bluing,
Battery acid.
Pesticides.
It's basically ingredients that if you ingested any of them would pretty much kill you or send you to the hospital in serious condition.
and I know that the people that manufacture it, can get blown up and they die. It's strictly just toxic poison.
For every 1 pound of meth that you make, you get 6 pounds of toxic waste. It's going to cause irreversible damage.
Originally started out snorting it.
snort, smoke it, shoot it, whatever,
I'd snort it, shoot it.
And I would ingest it as well.
I tried it every way that you could do it. And I just kept gradually going up and, trying to get that better high until I was, slamming it multiple times in the day.
I was 13 when I first started doing it.
Started about the age of 16. First time I did it, I was 17. I was at my brother's house. He was sitting down there smoking it, and he offered it to me.
Got into it because I wanted to impress a guy.
It was utter curiosity, maybe boredom.
I started off just having fun and hanging out. It was a social thing.
My parents in my school sent me to a rehab because I got caught smoking weed at school. Just met some people there, and I started, hanging out with them when I got out, and they introduced me to it.
One day they pulled out, a crystal meth pipe and were smoking it, and I had no idea what it was. I thought, okay, well, this can't be that bad, everyone else is doing it.
I decided since I already smoked marijuana, maybe try this meth thing, so big mistake.
Once I tried it that one time, just this instant euphoria, like it probably kicked in within 10 to 30 seconds of smoking it.
At first you feel really good, and I felt like I was on top of the world.
And it lasts for quite a long time, for some people up to 12 hours. When you come down from it, it's like the complete opposite.
And I started coming off of it the next morning. That's when I actually called the drug dealer and said, is this supposed to happen? He's like, yeah, but there's an easy remedy, you just do more.
Once you start and get going, there's no stopping it.
My body would ache, like I had just gotten over had like the worst flu ever.
Throwing up, couldn't hold anything down, and I was yellow on top of it.
Lethargic all the time, really hard on your body.
I came out of the military, I was weighing 180, and within 6 months, I was down to 135.
Went and saw a friend, and she's like, what have you been doing? You look like a stick.
I had spots in my head about this big of hair, literally gone, like a baby's butt.
I mean, you can tell when somebody's on meth, it definitely takes its toll on you physically.
I started getting more psychotic. Like my boyfriend and his friend would be talking, and I would swear that they were talking in code.
I would be hallucinating so bad where I'd see things in my room, see things that weren't there like bugs, or see things crawling on me, picking at my arm and trying to get these bugs out of my arm.
I spent 6 hours not moving other than picking at my face in front of the mirror. By the end of the night, I had huge gashes all over my face, I'd have them on my arms, I'd have them on my legs.
I was up for my 8th day with no sleep and no food, watching the walls move.
I'd been up for 37 days on meth, and I was looking out my window in the backyard, and I was absolutely positive the police were there. And they were in the bushes, they were in the trees, they were waiting to bust me, they were waiting to bust all my friends. So picked up the phone and I called 911, and I told the dispatcher that if you guys are gonna sit in my backyard and just watch me, why don't you come and arrest me? And all my friends at that point just left. The police came, they surrounded my house. Eventually they had to get me and tackled me and get me out of the house. ended up taking me away.
I'm thinking people were chasing after me. I actually went to a family member's house and they ended up calling the cops on me because they didn't know what was wrong with me. Woke up in a padded room and I spent a week in a mental hospital.
And you just go crazy on it because you're tweaking. You're not thinking straight.
Kind of gets your wheels turning real fast.
You're just moving like 100 miles per hour, like in your head. Your thoughts, everything's just going boom, 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 like really fast.
You'll start projects without being able to finish them. Or you can't concentrate on any one thing. Just constant motion when you're doing absolutely nothing.
I had to calm myself down, panic attacks and stuff.
I would just start getting real irritable, cranky, tired.
You get depressed.
Feel worthless. I remember just wanting to lay in bed and sleep my life away.
That was the only way I could function, is if I did just do a shot.
Just needed that and wanted it and was going to do anything to get it at that point.
Wouldn't have any problem going to your house, kicking your door in, robbing you for everything you had, just to get it.
Makes you not care that you're wasting your life away. Makes you not care that your sister cries at night because her brother is out committing crimes and manufacturing methamphetamines.
Had completely kidnapped me, mind and soul, and the more I did, the more it built up inside of my body.
I noticed in myself short-term and long-term memory loss, nerve damage, my muscles sometimes twitch, just things that seem to be irreparable.
My gums have permanent damage. I have permanent bone loss underneath my gum line.
I have an eroded esophagus now. 6 years ago, it was near cancerous. I still have problems today with it, and I mean, really bad heartburn. If I drink water, it can burn my throat.
I got cut from here all the way down to below my bikini line, and they removed all my large intestines. Left me with 1 inch.
I have tendinitis now.
Well, I got hepatitis C from injecting drug use.
You know, doing all that battery acid and muriatic acid and all that, it eats away not only at your teeth, but every bone, your eyes, it kills you.
You are the company you keep. So if you're hanging out with people that do drugs, you're going to do drugs.
I don't care who you are, you're not going to be able to function better on drugs.
Of course, I was always warned as a young kid, stay away from this, stay away from that. Whereas knowing what I know now, yeah, I would have definitely avoided it.
Nobody ever told me when I started it that, hey, this is an extremely deadly poison. If anybody had actually told me what it would really do to me, I would have walked right away from them and told them they're crazy.
There's nothing cool about it. There's nothing fun about it. It's deceiving at first, but it'll just take you to a place of going nowhere.
Becoming addicted for just one try or just one time, it's not worth it because that one time can kill you.
A couple nights of fun could lead to a whole lifetime of destruction.
Look at the pictures. They don't lie, like the mug shots, they don't lie. The people that are going to jail, it's not lying. I mean, it can be you. It's probably, in my opinion, the one drug that will make sure it happens.
Dust off.
Whippets. Nitrous oxide. Air fresheners.
Air duster.
NOS.
Markers.
Butane.
Inhalants.
It kills brain cells, it lowers IQ, it makes you into a zombie.
Inhalants are toxic things that people use to get a quick high. There are more than 1,000 household products that people use as inhalants to get high.
Most commonly used in the U.S. are shoe polish, glue,
Poppers,
gasoline,
lacquer thinner,
lighter fluid, nitrous oxide,
other paint solvents, and dust off.
Poppers and whippets, which you can pick up at a club or concert, contain really poisonous chemicals that can permanently damage your body and brain.
In the long run, it can hurt your body. It can cause damage to your intestinal tract and stuff like that. That cuts off the oxygen to your brain. It kills your brain cells.
It even says on the labels, do not inhale, you could die from inhaling this. On the labels of dust off, it causes heart attacks, causes this and that. And it's not like heroin or meth or any of those drugs where it will, eventually you'll gain a tolerance for it and you'll just be addicted and you'll just be trapped by it and you just keep doing it until you die. If you did it enough, you just die.
A lot of kids die with it still in their mouth because you just don't know when it's too much.
I did the whippets, I did air freshener cans.
Dust off for computer equipment and stuff.
Spray paint.
in a paper bag.
Inhale it through a shirt because you don't want the Freon to get in your throat.
With the whipped cream, you just push the top part and inhale the air when the whipped cream comes out.
People put it in a balloon and you inhale it, exhale and re-inhale it through the balloon.
Or you could just like huff it straight out of a can or whatever it came in. I have to say I was probably 13.
I think I was 14 or 15.
I was 15.
My friends and I were sitting behind a dollar store. I just showed up because I knew that was like a hangout spot. We would go there and drink or smoke marijuana. And they were all sitting around a circle just inhaling butane, like lighter fluid. I was like, what are you guys doing? Just, we're inhaling, it's kind of new. I don't know, it's cool.
Someone just discovered it, I guess, through somebody else and then brought it up. Honestly, we had nothing else to do.
I went to a rave with one of my friends. There was a guy sitting in his car with a tank. Just pretty much asked me if I wanted some, so I said sure. He filled up a balloon and gave it to me.
He called it devil in a can. He said it'll blow your mind. And it did. It was bad.
After I did it the first time, it only took maybe 2 to 3 days before I started doing it again.
When I first started doing it, it was like really exciting, so spend another hour or two just going through all the different cans in the house.
What's so addicting about it is you just feel the rush instantly. It just hits you immediately.
After I inhaled the whole balloon, I couldn't hear a thing. All I heard was wah, 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 wah in my head. People were talking to me, but I couldn't make out a single word.
I'd want to do it right away again because the high would go away so fast.
For 20 seconds, you have a false happiness.
So you want to get right back into it.
The whole goal is to be high, so you just do it, like want it right away again.
I wanted to do it again.
So you have to keep doing it over and over and over again.
I was doing it every single day. I was addicted to it, for sure.
I passed out.
And me and my friends passed out a lot.
Been passed out for quite a while, like a few minutes, 5 minutes.
I passed out in my house a few times.
Pass out, and I was just in bed. I'd pass out and I'd wake up every 10 minutes or every hour. And as soon as I'd wake up, I'd search for it. And I'd do it again.
And I would do it to the point where I would pass out every single time on purpose.
When you pass out, you wake up and you don't remember what happened.
You have like no sense of thought, so you tripping over things and always ending up hurt somehow, falling, shortness of breath, like it would make my chest hurt after a while.
When you're coming down off of it, you get a foamy mouth and everything tastes weird.
I'd get sick when I came down off a high. My stomach would hurt and I'd have a headache, feel really lightheaded.
I couldn't even see. I would just focus on the ringing because your head will start ringing. It's not like you could read a sign or go get a glass of water. It's just like you had to sit down and just wait for it to stop.
I would almost say like paranoia, confusion. And depending how much you do, you get really nauseous.
I just felt completely dead. Like I knew I didn't have any brain cells left.
Probably the worst migraine you could ever have in your entire life, where it feels like your brain is bleeding because it's hurting so bad.
It's like, that's it. Until it's over, you're just a vegetable.
So it's kind of like a never-ending cycle to where you'd be, never ends.
It was me and 3 other friends, and we were huffing in a car, and the driver was huffing too. She had just taken a hit, and she drove into a tree, and none of us were wearing our seatbelts. I had a friend end up in the hospital from it because she just didn't wake up.
I was bored. Did it once, I did it again. I did it a 3rd time, and then I passed out. The next thing I remember, I'm running down the street, barefoot and just a pair of shorts on. No idea where I was going. And somehow made it to my friend's house, and he drove me back to my car. There were cops there, and I had hit a tree, huge tree, messed up my car. I was stupid enough to ruin a $10,000 piece of machinery just for 2 minutes of being high.
I inhaled a bunch of dust off and then got in the shower and I knocked myself out, fell over, hit my head on the bathtub spout. And then I woke up and stupidly enough did it again, inhaled it, got back in the shower and fell over again. I was bloody and it's just stupid.
I inhaled it and I fell backwards, hit my head on the concrete and was out. And then woke up and the back of my head was bleeding. There was blood all over my back and my shirt and all over the place. And my friends were all like, whoa, that was awesome. I was like, they thought it was cool. I thought it was like, wow, I'm cool now because I'm bleeding. And my friends are giving me approval because I'm bleeding and in pain. Good friends.
I've heard from many other friends who
One was inhaling Freon, and he took 2 hits, and then that was it. And now he's dead. I do have trouble breathing. I can't run upstairs. If I do, I'm on the verge of passing out because I'm out of breath.
I still have memory problems with it because it severely messed up my memory. Can't remember faces like I used to. I don't have clear images anymore.
I'm learning at a slower rate than I was 2 years ago.
It does affect the way your ability to learn. It's really hard to see it at the time. So you don't realize the toll it's taking on your body.
I had no idea that it would cause this much pain and suffering and trauma on myself.
It really messes you up. They're irreversible to the body.
Just based on the fact that so many people die from it, I would say don't do it. Because it's not worth losing your life over. A 30-second high from a $5 can of compressed air is just not worth all the trouble that it causes.
Well, it would have been nice to know a lot more. I wouldn't have done what I did.
Basically not worth it. I've seen people die. I've almost died myself a couple times. And just for that quick euphoria, there's so many better things in life.
It's all fun and games, but it's really dangerous. Kids dying from it with the can still in their hand. There's no point to it.
It's really dangerous. It's probably more severe than some of the most dangerous street drugs out there.
I mean, all you're doing, in the time you're doing drugs, you're destroying your life, you're destroying your body, you're destroying your soul. But during the time, you think everything's fine. But that's completely false and fake and not true.
Smack, dope,
H,
big H,
horse,
Helda,
boy, girl,
black,
tar, diesel,
Shiva, dog food,
junk,
heroin.
It will take everything you've ever loved and it will destroy it.
Heroin comes from a poppy plant which grows in big stalks, and it's got this big bulb on the end of it. They extract the white substance by scraping the bulb with a knife, and this milky substance comes out and they start the refining process.
The opium is refined into morphine, which is further refined into making other forms of heroin.
Most of it's brought from Afghanistan.
And when you're in the West Coast, it usually comes from Mexico.
On the East Coast, there's powdered heroin, which is the gray, brown powder-like substance, and then on the West Coast would be the actual tar heroin, which is like a sticky tar-like substance.
Heroin is usually cut with other things such as either arsenic or other drugs just to make it cheaper, make more money for the dealers.
You never know exactly what they put in it, so it's very, very high risk of OD. One shot, you could die.
It can be smoked, snorted, and shot with a needle.
Started off smoking heroin.
I would just smoke it because I was told that that wouldn't be as addictive as using needles.
I would start out snorting it, and I wouldn't get that rush anymore, that good feeling that you're always searching for every time you want to do or snort heroin. And eventually the rush doesn't happen anymore, so you turn to the needle.
I was about 17 years old when I first tried it.
First time I was 18.
19 years old.
First time I did heroin, I was 14 years old.
It was a friend of mine that introduced it to me.
My boyfriend at the time.
One of my buddies just came and showed me it, and I tried it. That was it.
I decided, okay, something new. Something to make me feel okay with myself and believe I'd be functional.
It started off as, fun. Let's get high. But the problem with heroin is you can't just do it one time.
And at first, I didn't really think I was addicted. I just wanted to try it a few times.
But once you do it, it's you start becoming sick. You start going through withdrawal. The cravings are absolutely worse than any other drug that I had ever done.
The sickness is so intense, you would rather die than go through that.
After I started feeling the effects of it, the side effects, the withdrawal symptoms, and I didn't know what was going on.
Hot sweats and cold chills at the same time, like you just can't get comfortable. You try to fall asleep just to make it go away, and you can't fall asleep.
Your whole appearance changes. I would break out a lot. My skin was like yellow, and my eyes were sunken in.
Hallucinations from lack of sleep, loss of appetite.
I really couldn't concentrate, couldn't pay attention. And as crazy as it sounds, I didn't know what heroin would do to me when I first started doing it. I was just completely ignorant of that. I just thought, oh, it's another drug, I can just do it on the weekends. and have fun.
The reality of it is it is a big deal.
I woke up in Long Beach not knowing how I got there, convulsing and like seizing. And, you know, it had like a skyrocketing temperature of 107, just about dead out the door.
I wound up on the street, homeless, nowhere to go. My family didn't know where I was. And I was just in total apathy. I didn't care about anything.
I was living in a car in the middle of winter in Baltimore. Got robbed, got maced in the face. I had nothing. I was freezing and dying, alone.
The house which my boyfriend and I were selling drugs out of got raided many times. One of the times he hid in the attic and he made me answer the door. They came ramming in. One cop goes and shoves me against the wall, pushes me down the stairs, handcuffs us and takes us away.
I wanted to get high. I didn't have any money, so I looked at a couple bank statements that my mom got in, transferred over like $27,000 into my account. Spent that within like 2 weeks, broke back into the house after they changed the locks, and ran up to my mother's bedroom, stole her wedding ring, and went and pawned that.
It ended up me getting caught. I got like 4 felonies, a couple misdemeanors, got arrested.
It clouded my mind to the point where everything was almost like a video game. No real sense of consequence, no real sense of, you know, this is what I'm doing to other people around me, or this is what I'm doing to myself. It's just, you know, keep doing what I'm doing.
It was hell. It scared more my parents than anything because it's just like, you know, they wanted to know what they did as parents wrong. And it wasn't them, it was all about me. I didn't care.
It destroyed my family, financially, mentally, and physically.
You're not aware of the damage it's doing to you, not to mention your family.
It destroyed my entire body.
2 years after I quit, I finally could digest a normal meal.
My teeth were destroyed from it.
I still get, you know, restlessness.
My joints and all my bones like constantly ache.
I don't have veins in here anymore.
And I actually have some wounds from it on each of my shoulders.
I mean, I remember hearing don't do it, you know, just say no. And I had no idea what the reality was.
If I had more information on heroin and the facts and the dangers about it, I definitely would have touched it.
If I would have actually listened and learned some of the things that I know now, I would have never started doing drugs.
You try drugs, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how good of a person you are or what your goals are. The drugs can take it all away. It's not a joke, it's not a game.
Don't think it's all gonna be fun and games, because it's not. And it never has ended that way for anyone.
No little kid grows up thinking, oh, one day I'm gonna be a heroin addict. They wanna be superheroes or firefighters or things like that. But if you start using, all those things get further away. It just becomes your life. That is your job. When you're a heroin addict, that's what you do. That's all you do.
Blotter,
Microdots, acid,
gel tabs,
drops, doses,
Clinical 25.
tabs, LSD.
Acid is such a scary, scary drug. It was the craziest feeling I've ever had in my life and most uncontrollable feeling I've ever had in my life.
LSD is one of the most potent and mood-altering and emotionally altering chemicals that you can put in your body.
It's made in a lab, you know, it's some kind of mixture of chemicals.
It is odorless, colorless, and has a slightly bitter taste to it.
It's packaged in different ways. Like you can buy, you know, just a single piece of paper, one hit. You can buy a sheet. You can buy a book, which is multiple sheets of LSD. I've seen it come in, you know, gel tabs and liquid.
Just the tiniest little bit of it can last for, you know, 15 hours, 20 hours, sometimes days on end, depending on how much you take of it. It's so dangerous and so potent, and just sends you off into just a completely different reality.
There's a few ways. I mean, it's basically liquid, so you can drop it on anything.
It's normally taken orally on the tongue.
You can use an eyedropper, put it in your eyes. You can put it on paper. You can put it in sugar cubes.
I always took it in tabs and like strips. Rip off a little piece of paper and it'll have some kind of pattern on it, and usually like a brand.
Little pieces of paper that then you would put on your tongue, and it just sort of like dissolves and it ingests into your body that way.
probably around the age of 12, is the first time I took acid.
I was 13 when I first did it.
About 14 years old.
15, I'd say.
Took it first when I was 16.
I was 18.
Took it at a rock concert in the middle of about 25,000 people.
A girl I had gone to school with, she said, hey, look, I have this LSD. Let's skip school and go to a laser light show.
One of my friends was like, look, I got this, we have some acid. Guys that I know take it, and it makes you laugh, and it's just another thing to do. So that was it.
And they gave us a little piece of paper and told us to put it on our tongue and to suck on it for a minute and then chew it up and swallow it, and that's what we did. And then about 45 minutes later, I thought I lost my mind.
I mean, it really takes you out of everything that you know that's real and puts you in this very surrealistic world.
I mean, your whole world is distorted to where you can't even tell that you're human anymore, really.
I mean, you hallucinate, and you think you hear things, you think you see things. And
You would see stuff moving, and especially when you're trying to drive or something, stuff going by real fast, see tracers and stuff like that.
You know, trees waving, walls moving, stars just, literally falling out of the sky, people following you, people talking to you.
I remember I was in the mirror and I looked at my face, and my whole face was like green with like spots on it, like almost transparent.
I kept popping in and out of reality. I didn't know where I was, what I was doing, and how to operate.
You could kill yourself, something might happen while you're taking it. You might not come back. You might be stuck on that trip.
You get paranoia coming down off it. I mean, you think really horrific things. You know, your friends hate you, people are talking behind your back.
You're not eating, you're not really drinking, and you're just sort of out running around with this chemical in your body for hours.
It's like your muscles real tight and your back hurt and your bones hurt, like somebody snuck in your room and beat you with a ball bat or something.
I had a hard time concentrating on anything. It didn't matter what it was.
It was just completely beyond my control. I was just like a dead puppet.
I got to the point where it was just a part of the social activity where I was taking it and just dreading the next 8 hours. Dreading, okay, I have a lot of work in front of me, to survive again another 8-hour period of where I lose all my senses.
I had a glass, castle in my room, and I had started to trip so hard that I sat down to look at that glass castle, and in my mind I was in that thing. I ended up in that castle, and I couldn't find my way out of it.
We got acid from this guy who was visiting our college, and it was blotter. And basically what I wound up getting was not only LSD, but speed, because there was speed mixed into it. And there was a whole group of us that took that acid that got very sick. I just remember sitting there next to the toilet in a stall on the bathroom floor, just in tears, wondering when it was gonna stop, praying to make it just stop. I was in that much pain.
I was at a concert, and I had bought a sugar cube with liquid acid on it from a guy in the bathroom there. And I had taken it, gone into the concert, was having a good time. And then all of a sudden, it really kicked in. I got maybe 10, 15 feet, and I just sat down in the middle of the concourse area because I couldn't move. I mean, I was scared. And I sat down, and I didn't move for probably an hour and a half, 2 hours, because the whole world was just a blur around me.
I was at a party one time, I think I was about 15 years old, and this guy had taken 2 hits of acid, and he never came back. They literally had to put him into a psych ward because he never came back.
Me and my friend, we had took some LSD one night, and I don't know, we took 5 or 6 hits apiece, and we was both way out there, and I had a sheet where I was selling his acid, which is 500 hits, and he got wild and bit into the corner, and bit the whole corner out. Must have been 30 or 40 hits. Well, he went crazy, and they put him in a hospital, and I went to see him and stuff, and nobody could talk to him. Every time you asked him a question, he'd sing a song out of a rock and roll verse. This has been 20 years ago, and still to this day, he's not right. He's not the same person.
I mean, I haven't taken acid in 7 years, and I still feel these effects from time to time where I'm totally spaced out or in a fog or ill at ease, unable to concentrate, or things
seems superficial. You haven't done a drug in years, and next thing you know, you're like driving down the street and you feel like nothing's real. You feel like you're actually on acid again, and all of a sudden, you're seeing stuff, the same stuff you used to see, the same unrealistic things that you know aren't there, the same hallucinations.
Once at work too, I was helping out with like this shoot, like this photographer guy, and we were like have this whole band, this like very famous band, and we're shooting them. And then he said something like, "Can you hit the light?" I mean, I don't even know what happened. I just remember I hit the light, and the next thing I know, I'm like laying on the floor, and everybody's looking at me.
It's taken me years after it just to undo the damage. So LSD just takes you backwards. It closes doors for you. It just affects your life. If you think that LSD is going to expand your mind and give you new insight on things and give you a different outlook on life, it doesn't quite do that. It literally cooks your brain. It alters your senses, but in a very harmful way. It's complete trickery.
If someone asked me, should I take the drug, I would tell them it's your decision because everything that you do is going to be your decision. But I would definitely not recommend doing it.
Talk to some people that have been in your shoes before. It's nowhere but down.
It creates the worst effect on you as a person than any of the other drugs. I've never had, it's bad. I can't really, it's hard to put into words what it does to you, but it's horrible. I mean, it's horrible.
Every time that you take that drug, it's like playing Russian roulette with your life because you never know if you're gonna make it out okay.
Zannies, ads,
Tussin,
footballs, bars,
roofies,
robo-tripping, blueberries,
roaches, peaches,
farmies.
By the time you realize that you've started doing it pretty frequently, you're going to be physically addicted, and then you're at a point where you can't stop even if you want to.
Every prescription drug has an effect on you. That's why doctors give them to people. Some people think that because drugs come from a doctor, they're safe. But taking them for recreational use to get high can be just as dangerous and addictive as taking street drugs.
A pill can have a totally different reaction on you than the person it was prescribed for. So a drug that's okay for somebody else could be dangerous for you. Because of potential for abuse and addiction, the DEA puts many prescription drugs in the same category as opium and cocaine.
They're made obviously by pharmaceutical companies.
There's basically 4 different categories: depressants, opiates, and morphine derivatives, stimulants, and antidepressants. They come in capsules, tablets, and liquids.
A lot of people think that taking a prescription medication is okay because it's not illegal. But the truth is that taking a prescription drug or giving a prescription drug is a form of using drugs or drug dealing.
The first time I ever took Xanax was with friends. They just had some and I was curious.
I was curious and I had a friend that just told me about it and I wanted to try it and I tried it.
It was in high school. I remember one of my friends had gotten a tooth pulled, I think it was, and got a prescription of them.
He had an entire bottle and he was just telling me what it was and if I wanted to try it, and I just went for it.
I was introduced to it by a friend of mine that actually was going to see a psychiatrist to get it.
I was just hearing all of these good things, or these fun things, and it's like you're drunk and you don't have to drink. It's like, oh, they must be great, I'll try one.
It's like, okay, well here, take these, you'll have a great night, you're gonna feel really good, and it's gonna be totally fine.
My best friend in high school, she gave me one because her boyfriend used to take them. And she thought that they made her more comfortable around him and more secure about herself. And so she was like, hey, try one,
I'd try anything that anybody had, just test out different prescriptions, and it just kept moving up.
I wasn't picky about what kind I took, whether it was Klonopin or Xanax or Valium. So many of my friends were getting it prescribed from psychiatrists, and they were going to 2 or 3 different ones a month, so we had a pretty steady flow of it.
I started going to doctors and, telling them a lie about trying to get Xanaxes,
telling them that I couldn't concentrate at school, or I was just nervous or not comfortable around anybody. Then I would start getting prescriptions.
Being that they're prescribed, it was easy to justify to myself that I was probably the kind of guy who needed this kind of thing, and it was okay.
At school, like, I didn't really remember the day, or it made the day go by really quickly. So I got them as often as I could, and I took them as often as I could.
They tend to blur reality quite a bit, and the days sort of run into one another. Days turn into weeks, that turn into months, and you don't realize it just sort of slips away from you.
Because I wasn't experiencing anything that I cared about in life. I didn't have any feelings. I didn't have any emotions.
Kind of like lulled myself into a false sense of security, feeling like I was getting away with stuff, even though I'd still have to deal with it when I came down.
You're constantly high, so you're not yourself. You're not the person that anyone in your life knew you as. You're some stranger to them, and you're mean.
I would steal from my mom, I would steal from my brother, I would act out at family functions, I'd make a fool of myself, I would embarrass them, I would tell them things that I didn't mean, be very hateful.
And it got to the point where my family kicked me out of the house and weren't willing to have me around when I was taking it because of how violent I would get.
Within 24 hours, you're starting to come down and you crash off of it.
Feeling like the worst case of the flu, can't move, can't think, just don't feel like yourself at all.
Feel yourself starting to get depressed, being just less happy with everything around you.
I was very depressed. My panic attacks and anxiety was at a very high point.
I would be very emotional. I would start crying, angry.
When you're in that position, when you're feeling really physically ill and you know that you can get rid of it, it can be gone in 20 minutes. It's just all too easy to reach over and grab some more.
By the time somebody's been addicted for so long, they don't have enough strength left in them to actually try and do that, so it's just easier to stay high.
I would black out and you're like, okay, what happened for the last 2 days? You'd piece things together and you couldn't remember it one bit, like totally black.
When I would black out, I was completely awake, but I have no recollection of what happened. On my way home from the party, I got into 3 different car accidents because I was blacked out and I had no idea what I was doing. Got to my mom's house and the cops were coming. I knew they were coming. My only solution was my plan was to blow up my car in my mom's driveway. So I went out and I set my car on fire.
I passed out at a party. I woke up. The next thing I knew, I was at a hospital, and my friend that I was at the party with told me what happened and said that I took about 20 Xanaxes that night. They called an ambulance, took me to the emergency room, and they had to pump my stomach. They thought I was trying to kill myself, but I was just trying to get high.
I was drinking with the guy, and he kept on encouraging me to drink more, and I didn't understand. I just didn't really question it. I think I was 16. And then about a few hours later, I woke up in his bed and we were having sex and I started crying and I pushed him off of me. I don't know how he thought that was okay. I don't know how I didn't say no. I don't remember, so I assume that I did, but maybe I didn't. Like you just don't know. When you use Rohypnol and you're forgetting everything, you have no idea what you really did.
A guy that I used to know is on death row now in Arizona because he was on Rohypnol. He took a lot of them and ended up killing somebody.
A buddy of mine continued to go in and out of the bathroom using Ritalin, and he managed to put himself in a state of unconsciousness and jump off a 6-story balcony, and when he hit the ground, he was immediately dead.
I nodded out in a bedroom and woke up to find my friend. He was laid out on the floor. He had overdosed and passed away. He'd been laying there for 2 days. And my friend, this other girl, she was sitting in a chair right where I'd left her, slumped over, blue. I actually had to crawl over 2 dead friends to get out the door.
Even when you come off of it, you're still cloudy in a way. Can't comprehend short-term memory loss.
Things don't seem to be as clear in my mind. Things don't seem to connect as quickly in my mind.
I don't remember any of the times that I was blacked out. Everything that I know from when I was blacked out comes from third party, so there's definitely chunks of my life that I'm missing, and I don't know that I'll ever get them back.
There's weeks of time that I have no idea, what was going on.
The people who want you to buy these drugs don't care. They really don't care about what happens to you. They want the money, and that's really what it comes down to. Otherwise, they just wouldn't do it. They wouldn't make it sound so good. They wouldn't make it sound so interesting. They wouldn't make it sound like this thing that it's gonna be this one-time fun thing.
If I knew what the side effects and the consequences, and if I knew that I was going to be the way I was, I mean, there would be no way that I would have ever taken Xanaxes, because still to this day, I have a lot of regrets.
The biggest danger of it is seriously the word of mouth. People talk about it and always talk good about it because they think it's okay, it's not going to hurt you. But it's just as hard on you as a cocaine would be. Eventually it gets to where it grabs hold of you and sucks you in.
Just because it's readily available, or just because you can get it from your doctor, or just because your mom has it in the medicine cabinet or whatever, doesn't make it okay, and it doesn't mean that it's safe.
I remember when I was little, you got TV saying just say no. I'm like, oh, okay, just say no, whatever. But nobody ever says this is gonna kill you. This is gonna take your life away. This is gonna make your family hate you. It's gonna make your girlfriend hate you. It's gonna make life a living hell. I probably would have listened to him.
Hillbilly heroin,
OCs,
Narcos,
Smurfs, 80s,
big boys, dollar bill,
Green Goblin,
painkillers.
It makes your life a hell on earth eventually.
Painkillers are derived from opium. They're used for medical purposes.
They're a manufactured substance.
They're like a synthetic heroin.
It's basically as powerful as heroin, and it will affect your nervous system in the same way.
It's a pharmaceutical. It's sold over the counter as a painkiller.
It's mostly given to like cancer patients and stuff, and like people who have back surgeries.
You know, mainly used for people who are terminally ill to block off your pain receptors.
Normally you get them through a doctor. You can also buy them on the streets.
It comes in either liquid, like the cough medicine, tablets, or capsules.
With the fentanyl, you know, those actually come in a box of what we call the lollipops, because they actually look kind of like lollipops with a little thing at the end of the stick, and it looks like you're just eating a lollipop.
Some of the painkillers are like Oxycontin, hydrocodone, Loratabs, Percocets, Vicodin.
There's like different milligram forms. It starts out, I think you can get like 10 milligram pills, 20s, 40s, 80s, and then there's like 160s that are hard to come by.
I just took it in pill form.
You could take it orally.
Just get a straw and just snort it.
I used to crush it up and snort it.
I progressed to breaking it down into liquid form, using a syringe, tying my arms up and shooting myself up with it.
When I first tried it, I was 16 years old.
I was probably 18.
I was 21.
I started painkillers at about 28.
It was hydrocodone, a prescription painkiller. I'd first gotten it prescribed to me from a doctor.
I was on prescription pain medication from my doctor and therapist for a long time, and then I just bought it off the street after that.
I took the pain pills from a car accident.
Had some medical issues that developed because of playing sports, and he prescribed me Loratab and Somas.
Took it for a leg injury.
I just thought that it was experimental, and I thought it would be cool to try.
It was in the 9th grade in class. My buddy gave me an Oxycontin.
A group of friends in high school. It was the cool thing to do at the time.
A friend of mine told me about pain pills and how they made you feel, and I knew they were in the medicine cabinet. So that's when I went looking.
And then I tried to stop, but it was just way too addictive, and I got really sick when I stopped. So I just kept going with it.
One thing led to another, and before you know it, you're hooked.
I had no idea they were addictive till the morning I woke up and I was freaking out because I didn't have anything.
It clicked in my head that, oh my gosh, this is the physical addiction to it. I'm going through drug withdrawal.
It's a pain medication. It takes away your pain, but yet when the medication's gone, you just get all that pain back, whether it be emotionally or physically. It just all comes back tenfold.
You start to crave it, you start to need more.
Within a week or two, I was taking them morning, afternoon, and night and needed them to function.
All of a sudden, after you look at it, you're spending like $300 some odd a day just to get by.
You start feeling these awful withdrawal symptoms where you get terribly sick, hot and cold sweats.
I would vomit and vomit and vomit for days on end.
Don't want to eat, like forcing myself to eat because I knew I had to.
It feels like something's coming out of the bones of your body and trying to break out of your skin.
Felt like someone was just like shoving knives into my bones.
It's like the most horrible thing that you'd ever experience, just feeling like you just got beat up.
In your mind, you're completely panicked. You're freaked out. You can't hold a train of thought at all. You can't function.
I wasn't even looking for the high anymore. I was just looking to get that feeling gone. I felt like dying.
All you're doing is taking it just so that you're not sick.
You feel like you'll do anything to get it. 9 times out of 10, you will.
I had a choice to walk out a door and leave my life and my house and my wife, or stay and try and make things work and quit drugs. And I walked out that door.
I just packed up my things and I left my kids with my parents. I left my family. I didn't tell them where I was going. And I went and stayed with a friend in this rundown hotel full of drug dealers and prostitutes.
I was kicked out of my house 3 separate times. I couldn't believe that it had happened to me. Like, for me to be homeless, sweaty, hungry, smelly.
I was filling out fake prescriptions. You actually forged the doctor's signature. Next thing you know, a few months later, I was being arrested for fraud and forgery.
At 20, I was in federal prison for 20 months. And federal prison is no place for anybody to be at 20 years old.
I ran into the back of 2 cars. I pulled out of a parking lot, not looking, car hit me. And then I pulled into a parking lot in my apartment complex and just totally crashed into another car. I didn't even see it when I pulled into it.
I wasn't worrying about like where I was gonna go the next day, where I was gonna sleep. It was just all about getting high, and that was where my focus was.
So I didn't have to face reality, so I didn't have to like look around me and see needles and spoons and blood all over me from shooting up.
My daughter seen me passed out on the floor and not being able to wake me up, thinking that I was dead.
Woke up 3 days later, covered in my own feces and vomit, to my parents rushing me to the hospital.
I OD'd. I just woke up on the floor with some huge man, I didn't even know who he was, standing on top of me, hitting me on the chest, telling me to breathe.
I woke up in the hospital with a tube down my throat. I was handcuffed to the bed, and I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing here? My dad had come to visit me. It's the first time I ever saw him cry, and that's when it really hit me, is not only what am I doing to myself, but what am I doing to my family?
Destroyed my family. I mean, they love me and their family, and blood is thicker than water, but they can only take so much.
It ripped my parents up. Like, they didn't, some nights I'd stay out and not call. They didn't know where I was at.
I wouldn't accept their phone calls. I wouldn't go to Christmas. I wouldn't go to birthdays. I wouldn't go to family dinners.
And I turned into someone who was just had no emotion, that was just almost seemed like they're dead all the time. At first, it's like it's okay to do. It's from a doctor, it's safe.
No one told me that it was really addictive. No one told me about the side effects. No one told me anything. They just said this will take away your pain.
They're little, small, round, colorful pills that look so harmless, when really it's just a death sentence.
It sucks. When you're doing it, sometimes it feels good because you got a couple laughs with some close friends, but those laughs turn to tears very quickly.
You lose track of your dreams and your goals, things that you wanted to accomplish and you want to do in your life. The only thing that's important is the drug, and then before you know it, you wake up 10 years later and you see all the time that you'd wasted.
It's definitely not worth it. It's only going to take you down. It's never going to take you up.
For some reason, the lifestyle fascinated me, and I guess because I thought it was going to be fun.
You think it might be innocent, or just using it once, or just using it to have fun.
It does look like all fun and party and happy times, but drugs are the 100% complete opposite.
It took me, it was literally that quick. I let my guard down, I tried it, and that was it. That was the end of it.
I just happened to do the wrong thing at the wrong time.
Once you start using it, it's not just, oh, it's gonna stay recreational forever. It's not that way. It progresses, it gets worse.
It's definitely a dangerous road to go down.
It's like playing Russian roulette with your life. You have no idea what you're getting yourself into.
It might seem like it's cool and you escape reality or whatever, but all you're doing is postponing the inevitable.
You're just masking your problems rather than handling them.
The drug becomes the fix, and what happens is, after weeks, months, years of living that sort of, lifestyle, is the problems just stack up.
You may be angry at people in your life, and maybe that's why you start using drugs. But when they're gone, you realize how lonely it can be.
If I would have known some of the things that were gonna happen due to my drug use, I probably never would have surrounded myself with the people that I did.
I probably would have been a lot smarter about it. I would have made much better decisions and choices.
And if I had all the information, I probably wouldn't have started doing it.
If I knew then what I knew now, I would never touch it. I wouldn't even think about it.
Seeing what they've done in my life and other people's lives, I don't want no one to use ever, you know what I'm saying? And my heart gets full when I think about someone thinking about using.
Now, what's the one thing in this world that you know that you would never do? That you would never do to somebody, you know? Would you steal from a friend? No. No, you wouldn't? Okay. This will make you do that. This will make you do that.
I had goals, I had dreams, you know, I had aspirations to do a lot, and you know, I just put my life on hold for 11 years.
The things that you lose, a lot of times you can never get those back.
I have the question today, like the what ifs, you know what I mean? What if I had chose to do this or that?
You see in movies or something, you go in the time machine and you change one thing, everything changes. That's exactly what it does. If you would have changed that one hit, that one joint you smoked, I'm sure everything else would have been different.
That's the truth. That's the truth about drugs.